Sometimes you know what you want to write, but it's just not working on the page. This video is going to help you figure out why, and then also give you the 8 techniques that you need to solve those problems in your book. And hi, I'm John Matthew Fox. I'm an editor who helps authors write better books. So let's move right away into the very first technique. It is tonal shifts. Now, tonal shifts sound like a mistake, like, oops, I did another tonal shift, but not if you're actually using them on purpose. You can use them in good ways. Now, a tonal shift is just when you're writing something very light and then you suddenly shift into something really dark, or conversely, when you're writing something dark and then you suddenly shift into something really light. Let's look at Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. Now, look at this first sentence. It's just so positive, right? We have spring day, we have soft winds and good smelling earth. We have hope, right? You can't write a sentence more positive than this, which is why the next 2 sentences are so abrupt. Suicide weather. Oh, wait, what kind of weather is this? And who offed themselves the last week? Oh, wow, that took a dark turn. Now, why does this tonal shift work so well? I'll point out 2 quick reasons. One is that the contrast really makes the reader wake up like, huh? Oh, I better pay attention to this book. 2 is that she sort of fakes us out or dupes us in that first line, making us think like, oh, this is a really pleasant time. This is a really pleasant season. And then she interprets that like, what is this weather like? Oh, this is suicide weather. So one option, if you do have some darker material in your book, is to preface it with something a little bit brighter so that the contrast is greater. And the opposite holds true as well. If you want to be able to get away with a large section of text which is maybe almost too positive, you're going to make the reader think this is cheesy, just stick something really dark or, depressing right beforehand, and you will have earned the reader's attention to keep going through the stuff that might feel almost a little bit too cheesy. The next technique is a wonderful all-purpose technique you can use in any season, and it is number 2, trickery. So trickery is one of those classic writing techniques that's as old as Aesop's fables, really, and it always works better than you think. Really, if I was to compare it to something, trickery is like the technique of lying. It improves almost every single scene, it creates layers, it makes things much more pleasurable for the reader. Let's look at an example from Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings, which starts with some excellent trickery. Sazeth is trying to kill a king, and he sees all these bodyguards run out, guarding this one important figure, and he's like, okay, that must be the king. And just then a guard comes out wearing shard plate, and it's sort of like the chief guard, and they engage in this huge battle. But towards the end of that battle, Sazeth realizes like, wait a second, I think this chief guard is actually the king. They left him behind as a means to trick me, and that person that was rushing off, they were just a decoy. Now, what does this kind of trickery do? One is it makes both your protagonist and your antagonist seem a lot smarter, right? The antagonist is smarter because they came up with this trickery. The protagonist seems smarter because they figured out the trick. But trickery doesn't just work on a characterization level, it also works on a plot level. So there's this nice reversal where we think we're just fighting the chief guard and then he's gonna have to go run after this king, and then we realize, oh no, like this was the king all along. And those sort of plot reversals are just incredibly pleasurable for the reader. I should also mention, if you want more instruction like my YouTube videos, sign up for Bookfox Academy. This is 10 of my courses that you can take at your own pace, and they cover all sorts of different topics like sentences and dialogue and how to plot and write your novel. Thousands of writers have taken these courses. There are over 500 glowing reviews on the website, so click the link in the description below and check it out. The next technique that you really should be using inside your books is number 3, juicing your scene transitions. So how are you connecting one scene to the other? Are you connecting them? I hope you're connecting them. You should be doing something to connect them, and not just like, oh, this scene comes after the last scene. Not as clever or as good of a narrative technique as you want it to be. So let's look at a couple of fun examples to figure out how to do this, and we'll look at Ant-Man, which I was recently watching with my sons. So Ant-Man just recently got out of prison, and he's telling his friend like, oh, it's going to be easy to get a job. And he says,
look, man, I got a master's in electrical engineering, all right? I'm gonna be fine.
The very next scene, 1 second later, is...
Welcome to Baskin Robbins. Would you like to try our mango fruit blast?
Now, why does this scene transition work so well? Because he has these high expectations, like, it's gonna be easy to get a job. And then the big letdown of like, sure, a job at Baskin Robbins is all you can get. So on one level, it's a shock for him, but it's also funny for us as viewers, unless you're unemployed, in which case it's just sad. I'm sorry. Now, at the end of that scene, he gets fired from the job, but his boss says, well, listen, you can have a mango fruit blast as you leave. Like that's some sort of huge consolation. I don't know. Maybe mango fruit blasts are really good. Now, the next scene isn't showing him getting the mango fruit blast, and it's not showing him leaving the workplace. No, the next scene is him walking on the street, drinking this shake, and then throwing it in the trash. So what that means is we get a time skip and we get a place skip, and we just jump to the next moment that shows what happened previously. So that's another good idea for scene transitions, is you don't have to include all the in-between stuff, that connective tissue. No, just jump to the place that shows what happened. Moving right along, let's look at number 4, embody emotions in objects. So it's a great idea to have the emotions of your characters embodied inside physical objects. And I'm not saying that just showing emotion straight doesn't work. Like, no, show your characters having emotion. I just think it's a great idea to also have that emotion embodied in some sort of object. Look at Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Claire is actually wearing 2 wedding rings, a golden one from Frank, who was her first husband, and then a silver one from Jamie, that is her second husband. Now, what's really curious is that even after marrying Jamie, the second husband, she keeps on wearing the first wedding ring from Frank. And Frank died in this like tragic car accident just before they could divorce. So the question as a writer is, how do you show Claire's emotions? You could use dialogue and have her talk to a friend about Frank. Now, all of these are really good choices and you can use all of them, but I think just the physical presence of she still wears his wedding ring speaks just volumes about the loss that she feels and the desire to still feel connected to him. And also, her loyalty to him still. It is very economical. It doesn't take much room on the page in order to continue to show that she's wearing this ring. And it's just this sort of unspoken but powerful undercurrent that demonstrates what she's feeling. Now, I'll just add one thing. In the TV show, they didn't have this in the book, but in the TV show, they made that ring a little bit more powerful by connecting it to something that already contained a lot of emotional power. The ring was made out of the key to his estate. So he's giving the key to his home and the key to his heart when he gives her this ring. Hey, if you're getting value from videos like this, subscribing is how I know that I should keep making them. I literally look at how many subscribers did this video add and how many likes did this video have when trying to decide what videos I should make next. Because ultimately, I want to make videos that help you. All right, let's move on to the next technique. This one is number 5. One-shot description. Let's say you're introducing a minor character and you don't want to spend a lot of time on the page telling the reader everything about them, visually. So what you should do is you shouldn't try to describe everything about them, their hair and their eyes and what they're wearing and, their demeanor and everything like that. No. What you want to do is you just want to concentrate on a single thing. Choose one salient, important feature about that person and just describe that. For an example of this, let's look at Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. So he introduces this minor character, and all he does to describe this person is describe his hands. The hands were huge. The hands were so thickly padded, it reminded him of a bear. And that's really all the visuals we get of this person. But guess what? That's all the visuals we need to make this person seem like a real human being, to separate them off from the whole unwashed mass of humanity out there and make us feel like, hey, we know this guy. It's the guy with thickly padded giant hands. And also this sort of one-shot description technique, it just relieves you of the pressure you feel to describe everything about every single character you introduce. Take that weight off of you. You really don't need it as an author. All you need is one really important observation about a character, and the reader will feel like they know him. Hope you're excited for this next one because it's going to solve a lot of problems for you. It is number 6. the dialogue through item. So in a lot of conversations you have inside your book, I would strongly recommend that you plant an object. Actors know the benefit of having an object in a scene. They love having something in their hands that they can fiddle with, whether it be a hat or a cigarette or really anything else. Giving your characters some sort of object to play with helps break up the dialogue. It helps give you something that can add a little bit more meaning to the scene. It's just a fantastic idea. For an example of this, let's look at The Three-Body Problem by Soshen Liu. There's this scene with 7 to 8 pages of dialogue where there's just one object running throughout the whole thing. It's a cigar. And there are 6 different steps that the cigar takes over the course of this conversation to mirror what's happening in the dialogue itself. In the beginning, we have a cigar that gets lit, launching the conversation. Then he points at someone with a fresh cigar when the conversation's heating up a little bit. He lights a new cigar when they get onto a new train of thought. And then when they come up with a plan, someone pulls the cigar out of this guy's mouth and uses it as a prop to show how they're going to cut this ship apart with super thin filaments. And then once they decide, okay, this is the plan, he puts the cigar back in his mouth. Lastly, there is a reward. The guy who came up with this whole plan to solve the huge problem, he is rewarded with the entire box of Cuban cigars pushed towards him. So my recommendation for you when you have long dialogue scenes is to come up with an object that is a through line throughout the entire conversation and that you can use in different ways to play off what the characters are talking about. You're gonna like this next one. I think, I'm pretty sure. It is number 7. Create an unexpected reaction. Now, let me say, first of all, you don't always want your characters to react in unexpected ways. A lot of the pleasure for a reader might be seeing the character act in exactly the way that they wanted them to. For instance, ladies swooning over an extremely handsome man, or, an action hero beating everyone else up. But at least a couple times per book, I think it's a good strategy to have your character have a very unexpected reaction. For this example, we're going to look at Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None. There's a moment in this book where everyone realizes, oh, we're not gonna make it off this island alive. So what might the reader expect the characters to do? They might be in despair, they might be in disbelief, they might be feeling a lot of fear. And one of the characters, General MacArthur, he says that he feels relief. He has this relief because he feels like it's finally over and he doesn't have to carry this burden any longer. And then he confesses to a murder he committed, which is why he's being hunted on this island in the first place. So this isn't just an unexpected reaction that comes out of the blue. It's one that makes sense once we realize, like, oh, he feels contrition over what he's done and he's sad of having it sort of weigh him down. So yeah, in that circumstance, he would feel relief that he's finally going to have justice visited upon him. Now, this last point is actually my favorite point in this whole video. It's a really cool technique. Maybe I should have put it higher in the video. I don't know. But here it is, number 8. Second person interlude. This is one of those techniques you cannot learn from movies and TV shows. It's something you can only learn from books. Now, most of you are not going to use the second person for the entirety of your book. And just a reminder, like, second person is you, like you went to the store, you killed this person, stuff like that. I mean, there are examples of people using that point of view for an entire book, like If on a Winter's Night, A Traveler by Italo Calvino, or Bright Lights, Big City by Jay McInerney. But I think like 99.9% of you, you're going to be using, I don't know, first person or third person or something like more normal than this sort of second person gimmicky thing. But what you can do, and I think this works especially well if you are writing in first person, is that you can have what I call a second person interlude. The second person interlude is when the character telling the story switches from the I, the first person, to you, the second person. And I think this works especially well when your character is dealing with something incredibly painful, either a painful memory or a painful part in their past, or even a painful present moment, because what it's doing is it's having them disassociate from the scene. This is too painful for them to tell in the first person. So they're like, I'm going to tell this as if it's someone else, as if this is happening to someone else. For an example of this, let's look at Junot Díaz, The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde. This is a 3-page long scene where a daughter examines a mother's breasts and find a lump. And this is really difficult for the daughter to tell. So in order to handle that painfulness, she switches to the second person. She switches to you. This is how it all starts, with your mother calling you into the bathroom. You'll remember what you were doing at that precise moment for your whole life. Now, yeah, you could have told this in the first person, like, oh, my mom called me into the bathroom. I started to examine her, but that doesn't capture like the emotional intensity and painfulness that this character feels. So she tries to push it away from herself and she distances herself with point of view. And by the way, this isn't like the only example of this in literature. Like I've seen this probably a dozen times or more. I know this happens frequently and it's a really great technique. So I'd say, hey, try this out in your next book. Hey, don't forget to check out Bookfox Academy. The link is in the description and you will get a lot of benefit from all those courses. It'll really help you write your book. And I hope this video also helped you with some more techniques that you can put into your quiver that you can use in the novel you're working on and in the novels you will write next. Happy writing.